welcome. My name's Fox. This is Fox Farms. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, a month ago, I put out a video called Producer's Pride is Not Causing Your Chickens to Stop Laying Eggs. This video is to clarify my point of that video, to cover some statistics and numbers that I put together since that video went out, and to explain what I've been able to put together and what seems to be the most likely culprit issue that has occurred here. So hang on with me, and I got some notes in front of me, so if you see me keep looking down, that's why. I tried to do this video yesterday and it ended up being like 20 minutes and I still wasn't done. So I gave myself some notes to keep myself on track for your guys' sake. And a lot of what I ended up rambling on, I realized I could probably put in another video. So I'm gonna just kind of take all that off this note set and cover that more depth in its own video. So anyway, to get on with this one, to clarify, because most people seem to understand the point that I was trying to make in the video, but there were some who didn't, and I want to try and make it as clear as possible so that everybody can follow along. I stand by my original statement that Producer's Pride, Purina, Tractor Supply, however you want to look at it, is not doing something intentionally to end egg production. Okay, there is no toxins or birth controls or chemicals or whatever being added to the feed, and that statement comes from news articles and certain YouTube channels that were giving that information when this really all started breaking. So I have a video. I'll throw the tag up here or the link in the description for those on mobile. If you go to that one, you can watch it and get the gist of it. And I have the links to the news articles in that description. I'm not going to give out names of the channels because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't want to throw no hate, no shade on nobody. That's not my intentions. But anyway, so Purina did not add anything to the feed. The main point being that those relying on pellet feed as your chicken's whole nutrition, you're failing your chickens in general. Under the feed's just not an adequate diet. It's certainly not Producer's Pride 16% is certainly not adequate for winter chickens, and chickens that are going to have to deal with temperatures colder than the ones they were experiencing when it was warm. You know, I have a lot of people in comments, well, I live in Florida or something and we don't get cold. Okay, well, if it went from 80 to 60, it got cold. For most of the United States this winter, we have seen record highs, record lows in the same areas within like a matter of weeks. So it's been a pretty crazy winter for almost all of the United States. Okay, so that's going to have an effect on your birds. You know, the 16% minimum comes from the commercial, industrialized, you know, caged bird industry. That's where the numbers come from. You know, and those birds obviously are living in a cage or are super crowded, even the cage free, so they don't have a lot of room to run around. So that means they don't need as much energy, they don't need as much nutrients because they're not using as much. And then, you know, they live in temperature controlled, climate controlled indoor environments, so they don't have to worry about producing extra feathers, storing more fat to get through winter. Whereas most of our chickens, you know, all the cage-free, free-range, backyard, outdoor living chickens who have to experience winter are chickens, you know, if you're only giving them that 16%, you're feeding them the minimum percent, the bird body has to go, do I produce feathers and store nutrients to stay alive through the winter, or should I waste them on making eggs? Well, the body's going to make a pretty easy choice and go, yeah, we're going to have feathers and stay alive, and we'll wait till spring when everything's warmer and, you know, the bugs and the food comes back, and then I'll make eggs then. Pretty, you know, seems like simple logic. And then, you know, so really, our birds in the winter, if your chickens are going to experience winter at all in a non-temperature controlled, environment controlled setup, then you should aim probably closer to 20%. I kind of came up with that number just off some basic, you know, upping itness, and then it's been confirmed, corroborated, backed up, talking with a lot of other chicken people who say that they also aim for that 20-22% range for the winter. A lot of people you see, even right now with the whole Purina thing, have switched from 16%. A lot of them are going meat bird. Well, meat bird's 20-22%. But, you know, like I said, if you're feeding them the minimum, and then the bird body has to decide, do I survive or produce? And, you know, our innate systems are going to keep us alive, knowing that time for laying will come. So, moving on to the statistics, okay, because here's where things really start giving us numbers to back up this facts. Okay, so now my pool is admittedly not the largest, and I would love to be able to pool, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions, but I'm just not that popular of a person. I don't have that big enough of a view or an audience, so I can only work with what I get. But the ratios on my comments, and then based on trying to go through and read comments sections and sub comments across hundreds of videos over the last month, all kind of seem to fall in line with this. So anyway, for my comment section alone, off this one video, 93% of users who provided feedback used Purina feeds. Okay. Out of the 93%, 37% reported that they were feeding Purina feeds and were getting 0 eggs, and 56% of users said that they were using Purina feeds and not having any issues, that they were still getting eggs, that they had no issue to report. Out of my people reporting feeding with Purina and getting eggs, 100% of them fed kitchen scraps, extra proteins and nutrients mixed in with their pellet feed. You know, maybe it'd be a peas and black sunflower seeds. I've heard cat food. You know, everybody's kind of got their own little mix, but in general, 100% of Purina feeders who reported getting eggs fed extra. Okay, again, backing up my point that the feed alone is not adequate nutrition for winter. Meanwhile, 50% of people who told me that they were feeding Purina and were not seeing eggs, half of them said that they were feeding only the pellet feed. Okay, so yeah, obviously that 100% backs up what I'm saying. And then the other 50% that were, I had some of them, you know, admittedly that their idea of kitchen scraps was lettuce. You know, people feeding just vegetable scraps. People who were feeding scratch or other add-ons like that. Well, none of those were extra protein sources, nor a very balanced feed. You know, if you're just feeding lettuce, well, lettuce is like 75 to 90% water, not a lot of extra nutrients, vitamins, minerals there, certainly no protein. But, you know, we need to up that protein for feathers and egg production. Essential. And then what kind of surprised me, and then proves my bigger picture of it's not, you know, some conspiracy theory thing going on here, but 7% of users reported that they did not feed Purina products and still saw 0 eggs, having egg issues. And some switched, some were still trying to wait it out, but 7%, you know, that doesn't sound significantly a lot, but it's still a large enough number that it has to be taken into consideration. Okay, so what does all this add up to? The most likely thing that happened here, okay? And I know some of y'all aren't gonna like this, but here's the honest to God most likely scenario. Purina produces multiple feeds, okay? We know this. They produce the Purina, the Do More, the Producer's Pride, and several others, okay? They produce altogether like a dozen different feeds. Those mills are all supplied by multiple suppliers, multiple farmers, breweries, other industries that provide byproducts, just vendors and suppliers in general, okay? So let's say that somewhere, these certain mills, the farmer this year, he had a drought, and well, his wheat or his oats just weren't as high quality as they were last year, or he didn't have enough money to fertilize as much, or fertilizer, you know, I know there was the big fertilizer shortage and issues over the summer, so maybe he just couldn't get his hands on fertilizer, and so for, you know, whatever reason, the farmer's grain crop just wasn't as high quality, so it's just a little lower on the protein level than usual, or the mill had to change suppliers, bought soybean meal from a different vendor, and this could be because, sure, it could be because the mill was looking to save money, you know, again, inflation affects us all, and then it could also be supply chain issues, possibly. Whoever they were receiving their soybean meal from originally, for whatever reason, they just couldn't get a hold of it, you know. We've had a lot of those issues this year. And all that easily adds up to the final product that was produced out of those mills is only 8, 10, 12, whatever percent, not 16. And if 16 is already the minimum you need, and you go lower than that, well, then you're definitely not getting any eggs. So those, you know, everyone who's like, okay, well, I've been feeding Producer's Pride for the last blah, 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 and then all of a sudden it definitely changed, and blah, 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 you know, it's the feed, yeah. Okay. Yes and no. Previous years, the quality could have been higher, and it was right on that percent, you know. If you look through it, you know, there's a reason why they're written in minimums and maximums, because that means fluctuation. It says minimum crude protein 6%. Well, usually when you go through somewhere, probably not on here, but you know, there's unwritten pluses and minuses. It says minimum 16%, but could be 12. And 12% is not enough for eggs. Is Purina at fault? Arguable. I'll give you that. It's arguable. It's plausible. They are potentially at fault for directly choosing lower quality products, not adequately testing product going out to ensure that it meets the values stated on the package. But I mean, as we know, this happens across a bunch of industries in the United States. All the time we have foods, medications, things that, you know, get recalled because things get into them. Testing isn't done on every single batch of anything really that goes out. And it should. It all should. Quality control should be much valued. If you're putting your products out to the public, you should be testing all of it to make sure it's safe, what you say it is. I agree with you. But it's not some crazy conspiracy theory that Purina is, you know, mixing in some mysterious chemical X to produce egg-stopping powers, you know? It could happen to any, and that's at 7%. That's 7% of people who aren't using Purina products and are still seeing issues. Well, it's possible that those other brands are having similar or same production or supply, you know, and they were affected just the same. Because when you rely on anything that relies on a supply chain, if any part of that supply chain isn't up to par, isn't giving 100%, then the final product is always going to be affected. And then that can happen with anything, which is the whole point and the whole idea of feed your chickens, feed your animals as much real food as possible. Relying solely on a pellet feed has the potential to let you down. I don't care if it's the cheapest pure producer's pride from the big box store that you could find up to the most expensive organic non-GMO feed that you can, you know, come across. If they rely on outside vendors to produce their product, if any of those outside sources provides lower quality product, they're going to give you a lower quality product. Even if they produce their own, if my field has an off year that year, I'm going to produce you a lower quality crop. I'm going to produce you a lower quality feed. It wasn't ill will or ill intention or malfeasance or maleficence or any, you know, negative implications. It was shit happens. Sorry, you know? I don't know how else to say it. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna sum up this video. I hope that I have clarified my original point better and been able to provide, again, some further evidence, some statistical numbers to back up that 100% guarantee you no aflatoxins, no chicken birth control added. 2, is it possible that Purina feeds are of lower quality than advertised on the bag and thus responsible for your chickens not laying eggs? Yes. But you're just as responsible for not providing further nutrient base and adequate nutrients and adequate diet to your chicken, that when the one source failed, their whole system failed. You know, you're just as much to blame in that as a care provider as Purina in that case. 3, biggest point, self-sufficiency is important as much as possible. And I know that we don't all have the space to have chickens and grow land, but the more people that we can get involved, you might have the room for the chickens and have the chickens. Try and convince your neighbor to let you grow some corn and, you know, whatever on their property. They can get some of the food, maybe they can get some of the eggs. You get free food, you know, cheap feed, higher quality nutrient sources. There's definitely ways. We have to remember to stop trying to divide and you know, alienate each other for this, that, or another thing. And remember that the only way that this really works is if we all come together and work together, because, you know, a supply chain that is you and your neighbors is a lot easier to control and overcome than, you know, supply chains that are out of your hands. So that's my 2 cents. Take it, leave it, I don't care, but that's what I've come up with. And I don't know. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys so much. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. It helps, you know, get this video out and increase our numbers. Comments below whether you're using Purina or not using, well, sorry, whether or not you're getting eggs under Purina. If you could let me know your state so that we can try and find out if this is a widespread or localized issue, that'll help either prove this theory or, you know, help prove that I'm wrong, and kind of help try and pinpoint what's going on. So the next step, I think, is localization, or locales of issues versus non-issues. And then if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. We're getting so close to that goal of 100 subscribers already, and I just I really can't believe we're already there. So appreciate y'all so much for stopping by. I love every single one of y'all, and I truly wish y'all nothing but the best. And this journey, whatever journey, I truly hope everybody gets eggs, and we figure this out, because we need each other. So until next time, guys, peace.